It is institutionalization for their process, which is the gradually responsibility, ideologically indifferent prosperity, which is the functional and the different growth orientation, and its institutionalization, which have different core values and systematic way of the ideologically thinking about different role in its regulatory efficiency and its procedure for their gradually transformation, which have their effective part of the approach and its regulatory and transformation for their ideologically, which have the procedure and its influential part of the approach and different referendums and its ecologically. It is the different dynamic institutionalization and its procedure for the coordination and the influential part of the approach, which is the responsibility and how to dynamic institutional structural the growth and its orientation for their socialization, which is the influential structural and its growth and its orientation for their different referendums and its ecologically prosperity, the functional association and its neutral efficiency for their procedure and its gracefully responsibility and ideologically the part of the approach and its core values and its ideologically phenomena, the procedure and its efficiency for their growth and its orientation of the socialization, which have their growth and its orientation for their neutral efficiency, the different challenges and its working capacity for their neutralization and its influential part of the approach, which is the different sensitive approach and its neutralization and its core values and systematic way of the growth orientation of their neutral efficiency. It is the process and the systematic approach, sustainable renewable resources, the procedure and its influential institutionalization for their growth and its orientation for their neutral efficiency, dynamic institutionalization, the procedure and its effective part of the approach, the growth orientation, which is the neutralization in its procedure for their gracefully responsibility, how to neutral efficiency and its procedure for their regulatory transformations, the growth and its orientation for their neutralization and its influential part of the approach and different efficiency for their dynamic institutionalization procedure and its influential structure. It is the procedure which have their gradually responsibility in neutralization and the influential structural the procedure and defining for their growth and its orientation for their different perspective of their neutralization. It is the transformations and the different referrals and its ecologically prosperity for their neutral association and its core values and systematic way of the growth orientation of the society, which have inclusive advantage and resources about the different functional and its orientation of the neutral efficiency and its core values and systematic way of the ideologically thinking about the different referendums and its ecologically prosperity for their neutralization, which have different partially growth and its orientation of the socialization, which is the influential part of the approach and different cooperative advantage thinking about different reasonable structural and its procedure for their efficiency and transformation for their growth and its orientation for their neutralization and its influential part of the approach and different growth and its orientation. It is the deficiency and transformation for their neutral and its core values and systematic way of the growth, how to acknowledge about their resources, the formidable part of the approach and its influential structure, the process and its representatives for their transformation in its core values and systematic way of the growth and the orientation of the society, which have inclusive advantage different resources and its finding and its prosperity for their neutral structural, the growth and its orientation for their socialization. It is the perspective for their neutralization in its core values and systematic way of the growth and its orientation for their neutralization, which is the influential structural and its resources about different growing and its influential institutionalization, the prosperity and institutional structural, the growth and its orientation for their referrals ecologically prosperity, which is the institutionalization and its core values and systematic way of the ideologically thinking about different representatives and its part of the approach. It is the transformations and its prosperity for their ideology. How to regulatory transformations and its growth and its orientation for their neutral efficiency, challenges for the different affordability and systematic way, and how to neutralize the cooperative advantage. It is the influential structure. आवाज़ बहुत आ रहा है ना बाहर से, बैकग्राउंड म्यूज़िक, इधर उधर का आवाज़ बहुत ज़्यादा आ रहा होगा, कोई बात नहीं, कंटिन्यू करते हैं. It is the transformations and its gradually responsibility, how to sensitive advantage, the responsibility about different core values and its institutionalization and its influential structure, but different representatives and its part of the approach and its institutionalizations for their different cooperative advantage. How to neutral efficiency and its procedures for their reflexivity and challenges for their growth and its orientation for their socialization, and the influential part of the approach. How to neutral efficiency and its procedure for their reflexivity. It is the challenges and its reflexivity for their growth and its orientation for their socialization. How to neutralization and its procedure for their effective part of the approach, and its institutional, structural, and its core values and systematic way of the growth orientation of the society, which have inclusive advantage, different referendums, and its ecologically prosperity for their neutral association and its neutralization and its influential as structural the growth and its orientation. It is the dynamic institutionalization, the prosperity and institutional as structural the core values and systematic way of the growth orientation, which have the influential structural and resources about different defining institutionalization and its core values. How to neutral efficiency, dynamic institutionalization, the procedure and its reflexivity for their transformations and its growth orientation of the socialization, which have their influential part of the approach and different referrals and its ecologically prosperity for their institutional, structural and its procedures, which is the reflexivity. आवाज़ तो बहुत आ रहा होगा बैकग्राउंड का, बट कोई बात नहीं दोस्त, फिर से कंटिन्यू करते हैं. Which have different reflexivity for their transformations and its core values and systematic way of the growth orientation of the socialization. It is the influential part of the approach. It is the guidance principle and its approach efficiency, which have different reflexivity for their transformations, coordination and its sustainable approach about their different production link incentive, which benefits by the manufacturing goods and its services execution implementation, the forbiddance for their approach and its influential structural the growth and its orientation for their neutralization and its influential and its institutional structural the prosperity, which have different defining and institutional association, which have the core values and institutionalization. It is the transformation and its prosperity for their neutral efficiency and its procedure for their reflexivity and transformation. How to neutral efficiency and transformations for their core values and systematic way of the growth orientation of the socialization, the influential part of the approach and its reflexivity for their transformations and its approach and its influential structure. It is the prosperity and institutionalization for their different role in its regulatory transformation, the influential and institutionalization for their prosperity and institutional structural the core values and systematic way of the influential institutionalization and its different referendums and its ecologically. It is the transformation and its neutralization for their growth and its orientation for their neutral efficiency, challenges for their working capacity of the institutionalization, the prosperity and institutional structural and transformations for their neutral efficiency, which have the reflexivity and transformations and its prospectus for their ideologically thinking about different regulatory and its influential part of the approach and its growth orientation of the society, which have defining institutional. जिस दिन बढ़िया से बोलना आ गया ना, बाय गॉड प्रॉमिस करते हैं कि उस दिन से बहुत ही अच्छे अच्छे कंटेंट लेकर आऊँगा आपके लिए, सिर्फ आपके लिए लेकर आऊँगा. इसलिए अभी तो मैं प्रैक्टिस कर रहा हूँ अच्छे से बोलने का, नॉट ओनली हिंदी बट ऑल्सो इन इंग्लिश. ओके, तो आप ओके, आप समझ रहे हो ना?